If you're a business owner, you don't need us to tell you running a business is tough. Don't let QuickBooks and spreadsheets slow you down anymore. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you the visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Join the over 21,000 companies using NetSuite right now. Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/C-suite. netsuite.com/C-suite.
Yo, so check this out, man. The other day I was getting ready for a big thing we got going on later this year. Something very awesome in September. We're going to Dragon Con. I'm pretty sure we've talked about that on air before. If we haven't, surprise. Or if you haven't heard it before, there you go, homies and everybody out there listening. So, yeah, dude, I was looking at some stuff to get us ready for that. Because, we got that big surprise we've been working towards for the homies and for everyone out there. Especially those at the con. And, yeah, man, I found some cool shit. I found some cool stuff. I found some options for the both of us. We'll have to go over them later on. And I know this sounds vague as hell right now, probably, because I can't really divulge too much in detail, but I can't wait for it, my friend. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Well, this is either something great or something terrible.
No, this is going to be something great. There's no negativity about this. This is going to be purely copacetic.
All right. That was ominous.
Ooh, what could the homies be talking about? But yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun, though, guys. So for those of you who will be going to Dragon Con later on this year, it's going to be in Atlanta. Atlanta, Georgia, of course. The homies will be there. So if you're there, give us a shout out. We'll be sure to link up or something. It'll be a lot of fun. Homies unite.
Come find us.
It's going to be hella fun.
Yeah. Give us some love. A high five even. Hell
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, that's grown to become one of the biggest conventions in the nation.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I hope to really do see someone out there who says, yo, you're a homie? Fuck yeah, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Pretend you know what we look like.
Also, yes, I suppose. It would be... Yeah, fuck. The good old vocal industry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, welcome back to the Superhero Homies podcast. My name is Quentin, and as always, I am here with the homie Kevin.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are you all doing out there today? Yeah, man. I've been looking forward to tonight's episode pretty hard. I've been looking forward to it because it's been something that it's been needed to be discussed, damn it.
It has been. It really has been. And
yeah.
This is something that's so multifaceted that, there's a lot of different ways to kind of talk about it and to kind of, break down. And by the way, guys, what we're discussing tonight, in a nutshell, is...
I was trying to open up my drink quietly. You see that failed.
Yeah. What we're talking about tonight is character integrity. And what we mean by that is maybe... where there be little subtle changes made in movies, or where there be a sudden evolution of a character,
right?
With just the comic industry as a whole, or the movie industry as a whole,
right? Any type of fictional storytelling industry, really. And actually, I had a really good idea for kind of opening the door to this plot subject to really kind of help spell to the homies what we mean whenever we use the phrase character integrity. Most oftentimes, you guys are going to understand what the hell we're talking about because if you've been listeners of the show, you've heard us moan, bitch, and complain about it time and time again. But there has been some stuff I wanted to talk about because reading and writing is definitely a passion of mine, you know? Be it a fictional story or something nonfiction. In this case, of course, our primary focus, 99% of the fucking time, is fiction.
Oh, yeah.
But most fiction stories have to start out with a similar premise, where you have an overarching story. And that story is actually going to consist, most of the time, in great writing, 7 well-driven and well-used elements of storytelling, or literary elements is another way of putting them. My mom was an English teacher, and so this was something that we definitely took well, I say we, excuse me. Myself and one of my siblings took a passion to it. Another one of my siblings said, what the fuck is this? Nah. And doesn't like to read. I'll let you guess which. But I digress. Those 7 elements are character, plot, setting, point of view, something we don't necessarily talk about a lot, style, theme, and of course, tone. Now, a lot of those words you hear us really rave about for a lot of these things. We always talk about the movie was good, but the tone, blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, this was really cool, but the plot was all over, you hear it. Characters are integral as one of those 7 elements. They're one of the bigger ones there because their job's to move the plot forward. Without great characters, there's not a lot of inspiration nor desire for an audience or readers or watchers, whatever have you, to pay attention to a story. There's just no drive there a lot of the times in most general cases. So you want a good character, someone reliable, someone relatable even, whatever. And that's a lot. There's so much room for this school of thought for character development. But I'm really using this to focus in on one driving point here. Characters have personalities, backgrounds. They're relatable, they're imperfect, they have strengths and flaws, and they have they have most of the time a great character will have a motivation and, unbeknownst to them, a story arc, a development, a beginning and an end. Dan Harmon, for instance, uses a story arc in the symbol of a circle, that they come full circle at the end and have grown some way because of it. I'll just skip ahead there. So the thing about that, though, whenever you get your character, those integral parts become the person, and at first it's just little details, like maybe a birthday, hobbies, likes, dislikes, favorite foods, and a good character might have a lot of these or just enough of these, either way. But that's the thing, at this point now in the story writing process, you in theory, right, would have a developed known character. Now let's step it back into our realm real quick, and I'm almost done with my point, so I'll shut up for a few minutes here. But whenever you look at that idea through writing and creating this fictional being, this known character, through the lens of a comic book, a video game, a great blockbuster film, that character may or may not have fandom. A lot of people following and wanting to watch and see what they do and what they become. Well, that means people are going to know about the character. If they're fans, they may study up, read up, find the canonical source material in our world here as comic book readers, and really get into who and what they are. And that's where tonight's episode of Superhero Homies comes in, because we gotta point out when the worst case scenario happens, and that is when we have a pre-established character, and that is the overarching theme here. This is a pre-established, aka a known character, who has a defined set of these characteristics here. Motivations, their flaws, their strengths, what they do, what they don't do, how they speak, what they like, don't like, all these cool, important, fucking great details. And they get changed for an unknown, whatever reason, be it to fit a plot or whatever. And that's obviously what we're going to talk a lot about tonight, but I really wanted to kind of paint the image here, if you will, because a lot of great writing, guys, this is such an important integral keystone for it, because without a reliable even character, your plot doesn't get driven forward. Your plot doesn't get driven forward, the story arc doesn't make sense. The story arc doesn't make sense, your overall story falls to bits and pieces, and no one has a reason to pay attention, to read it, to watch it, whatever have you.
Yeah. Very true. Great little introduction there. So the whole thing about this character integrity thing is that I feel that for maybe some of our longtime listeners, some of the homies who've been with us for a while, you've probably heard me cite this unwritten rule about character integrity, which is, superhero homies rule number 1: you can do whatever you want to with the story as long as you adhere to the integrity of the characters.
Right.
And just to kind of layer on what you were saying earlier about how there becomes this canonical nature built up on a character, there becomes this true lore built up on them, and that lore is that character is what really drives the fandom. So, for example, whenever you see the first iteration of a character that's created, we get that, and that character grows a huge fan base. The fan base grows to a point where, in this day and age, we're fortunate enough that it grows to a point where they can get a movie.
Yeah.
That's fucking excellent.
Hell yeah.
There's somewhere in that process though, where they being Hollywood recognizes the fandom of said character or property, and they realize that there's money to be had on that, so they want to make a movie off of that, so they can profit from that even more.
Right, and that's one so overly common example there, where there's a desire for like a selfish profit to be made, like a financial one in the case of Hollywood, and that's the inspiration behind them doing what they want to a character. And there's a lot of examples of that we'll talk about here in a bit. But you're right. That's where the poison comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a little hesitant to even refer to that as like such a negative thing, because it's their job. It's their job.
Well, from our point of view, it can very much be a negative thing, and I won't even correct you if we paint it as such tonight.
Yeah.
However, open-minded selves would also understand that with every yin, there's a yang, and sure, that's what helps to create, I suppose, a more original quote-unquote story from Hollywood's point of view, where it's like, oh, we're not copy-pasting this, we're retelling it for whatever fuck purposes.
All right.
Yeah. So I get that. That's a cool footnote you bring up. Yeah.
And it's because, as we're gonna get into tonight, like a lot of these changes, yes, are fucking up the devil. Like, why would you do this? But also some of these changes, looking at it objectively, you're like, I can understand why you would need to make that change.
Right. I'm guessing you have a couple of examples there.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, that's going to be great, because I feel like that's going to tie in a lot with the material I have prepared here. What I have prepared was a list of recognizable sins, if you will. And yes, I do use that hard verbiage, sins, especially in tonight's point of view here again, to really decipher when you can feel it happen.
Right.
An unbeknownst or an uncomfortable change and the consequences of such. But yeah, man, let's do this shit. Hopefully tonight will help a lot of homies to kind of bump up and be like, oh, this is why this is why the homies don't blah 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 blah.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because I guess in a weird way we can be considered purist, or
I guess tonight would kind of paint that too.
But because I thought about that, but also something else that I would like to talk about later on to kind of counterbalance that. I even have a little segment dedicated to how the comics don't even adhere to their own lore or their own source.
True. And I even have like a little something to kind of it's a related principle, but nonetheless a separate principle, and that is the idea of character growth, just to give you guys a little bit of an itinerary there. But we won't talk about that quite yet. I'm going to introduce that concept once we feel like we've driven home this point. But yeah, man, let's start it.
Absolutely. So tonight, guys, this is really going to be super interesting, because for those of you who have maybe heard us complain about certain movies, this is really going to, I guess, unfold maybe why we feel that way about certain properties.
And I don't know about you. I don't plan on tonight being just a slander / fed session.
That's what have good things.
Exactly. Good. Okay. I was about to say, earlier, okay. I anticipated both of us having that mentality, actually. That's good. Yeah. All of a sudden you surprise me. No, Kevin, we're gonna drag a lot of names through mud tonight. We're gonna piss off so many people.
I mean, that's probably still gonna happen, but whatever.
Well, we'll probably piss off some people. Shit, I mean, I feel like we do that with over half of our content.
So, I guess in the beginning, I just kind of need to get the question out there in the air, the kind of overarching theme, and that theme is gonna be. That I pose to, I guess, you and the both of us, really.
Please.
Why do you think these changes are being made?
So that is a great fucking question, because that literally leads into a number of things I have written down here. These changes are being made, and then there's a number of things that I'm going to discuss, but I'm not going to define them quite yet. I'm hoping that you and I can go into these almost like little bullet points, just kind of give you like an imagery there. So there's a number of reasons for these characters to be altered in such an uncomfortable way. And what we mean by that, guys, let's get an example out here so we can help kind of explain ourselves a little better. Batman. Everybody knows Batman. He's brooding, he's mysterious, he's intelligent, he's competent as fuck. He's very capable, and he is overly prepared. In fact, superstitious even at times, right? Those are fair descriptive words. Now let's say we painted an image of him being mellow, laid back, overly energetic, nervous. None of these are descriptors of Batman, or even whimsical. Like that's almost damning. Like what the fuck are you watching? Is this like Adam West Batman? Like what even is this? That's whenever you watch a movie and you can see these types of character descriptive changes where it's like, wait, what the fuck? What happened to Batman? Why is he so slapstick all of a sudden? That's what we're talking about, guys. Whenever they take a known character, someone who's been so pre-established, and these changes happen here. A number of reasons for that. One, you mentioned on earlier, lucrative purposes. For the purpose of making money, to just sell something, to sell a product that they think people will like, and just to fucking do it, you know? Another one that I have written here, they would change a character to force them to fit in a plot they've written. Or in a plot they want to have written.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a couple of the big boys I'm ready to talk about tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Another one I feel like, they would forcibly change a character to make another character look bigger, more likable, more enjoyable, more... to set them up for something greater. You get my point here. In other words, they would demean character A to drive character B further into audiences' hearts.
Yeah.
And that itself is another layered sin, you know? But those are like three big examples. I'm sure that's enough for us to kind of like drive into first now.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, because those are really great examples. And, just going with the first one that you mentioned, that I mentioned earlier, also the thing about profit, about them making changes to certain characters in certain movies so that they can drive a higher profit margin, that kind of dovetails into another mentality, another way of thinking, being, so who is this movie made for?
Exactly.
Because once you start to make so many changes, you can't say that that's made for the core fans of that property or character. Because it comes to a point where it's just unrecognizable.
What are some examples, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's poke the brain here.
So, okay, without trying to advertently shit on anything, and hell, some of these I'm mentioning are movies that I even like.
Oh, please, that's fair.
Yeah, so obviously, like Thor Ragnarok is one that we talked about. That's a big one. Another one that maybe people wouldn't expect me to put on the list is actually Joker. That is definitely one.
Yeah.
There's been several different minor X-Men characters. Well, I say minor, but they're using a minor manner throughout the Fox franchise. So kind of almost lumped that whole fucking category or the whole fucking company into one conglomerate.
Right.
But those are just a few as an example. And hell, I mean, the biggest issue with these characters is that, as a fan of the core material, you go in to watch these movies because, oh my gosh, like your nerddom is finally being recognized.
Hell yeah.
And they're making it live action, and you become so excited about this, and as you go see these things, you kind of realize that, well, these characters, especially even from a personality standpoint, from the way that they act, like, this isn't really what I recognize as a fan. And I don't say that from like a pure standpoint. I say that from a standpoint of, well, why did you go this direction? Or why did you mislead me? I feel a little mislead. Yeah.
And in these particular cases, a lot of the time character changes can come off as being lazy, uninspired even, or contrived. In that particular case, that's almost a very contrived change to a character, where it's like, what the fuck is even this? Like, this is just a person dressed up as a character I recognize, but this isn't them.
Yeah.
Another example I thought of there, the Skrull from
the Skrulls from Captain Marvel.
Yeah. where that was a change that was made for the lucrative purpose of what they were doing here, but we all know the Skrull from the comics, and that's just one example.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel from Captain
There
Marvel.
you go. That's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully now, like, we're almost a whole year removed from the Captain Marvel movie, because when we came back from the theater, I was fucking hyped. Not hyped about how good the movie was, hyped about, okay, I need to get some shit off my chest.
Right.
And the thing of it is that also kind of leads into another sin, one that I think is probably the most sinister. And that's the sin of making changes because you either assume that your audience doesn't know or doesn't care.
That's another great example. A fourth one, I would say there. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and talk about that one before these others here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, dude, that's another big ass one. Let's say, I'm trying to think of another good example of that. What was the one? Oh, here's a comedic one.
Oh, shit.
Sonic. Okay, so this wasn't a change of personality or character motivations as much, guys. However, who doesn't remember the verbal slaughter of the first appearance of Sonic whenever his trailer first was released, and that thing was ugly as fuck?
Oh,
Who doesn't remember that?
That was atrocious.
And they made those changes thinking, oh, whatever. We can only assume, however, that those changes were made because they presumed not enough people would care.
Yeah.
Well, look how many fucking people cared, and look how many changes they made to Sonic, and look how great he looks now.
Yes.
You know? That's a great example.
And that also, for me, goes to show that, or at least I can assume that whoever is at the head of that writer's room, or whoever's at the head of design in the case of Sonic, that person is probably the main accuser of being or thinking that, oh, the fans won't care, or they don't know any better, and another thing just to kind of lump into that entire sin would be that the person heading that just doesn't care about the source that much.
Yep. And that's a big ass topic right there. That's almost a whole nother episode. Because that's what the fuck are you doing?
Oh yeah, you can feel it. Like, you can feel when like a movie director or a writer doesn't fucking care about what their source material is. You can feel it.
Yeah.
When they're just trying to tell their own story versus taking a character and adapting a story around who that character is.
Exactly. Because remember, as I said earlier, guys, it's your character that drives the plot forward. If you don't give a fuck about the plot or the character, what are you doing behind the driving? What are you doing there?
Yeah.
But that's another great point there. One of the other principles I was talking about earlier, taking a character and changing them to fit your plot, that itself is one of the signs of something I discussed earlier. That's a sign of lazy writing.
Absolutely.
That's a sign of whenever you care more about the plot and the outcome of it than you do your actual characters.
Yes.
In that case, that sacrifices the potential of character growth, which is a healthy and welcoming change. That sacrifices the ability of making your characters potentially likable, relatable even. And that's when it's like, well, what the fuck were you doing here?
Yeah.
You bastardized this character for me? I didn't ask for that.
Right. Yeah, and like, unfortunately, man, like, that's one question that, I posed earlier that I don't really have a strong answer to, being who the fuck are they making these movies for?
Nope.
Like, I mean, in the case of the MCU, and I'm gonna metaphorically pick on them for a minute because they're the largest conglomerate in the room. Like, they have the fucking monopoly on superhero movies. And I think for the most part, I fucking applaud them because they've been amazing.
Yeah.
However, they haven't been perfect.
Right.
And just speaking of them really quick, we spoke about Captain Marvel really quick, and while the character of Carol Danvers maybe really wasn't that far off, I mean, I personally think she's almost as wooden in the comics as she is on screen, so it kind of
Yeah.
She's never really been like a super likable character for me
Right.
anyway. But just seeing Marvel, for example, a character that I was really close to.
Yeah.
And he has been dead for damn near 30 years in the comics.
Marvel, in the case of the movies versus comics here,
Yes.
is another home run example of changing a character for the sake of your plot. Yeah. because that was fucked up what happened.
Oh yeah.
And there's no kind way to put it.
Yeah, it is. And like I also think that's.
And I have another example in a second, but please.
Yes. Like I think that what they did with Marvel is a grand example of several points. That's a grand example of, well, if we change it to this older female mentor to Carol, then that can maybe drive a certain audience in that we're looking for.
Right. Yeah.
It's also one of those things where also he's Marvel. Fans don't know who that is. Fans, and if they do, fans won't care who that is.
You're right. That's a toxic change that they did, which kind of leaked into a couple of our examples tonight. A couple of our subjects there, or excuse me, a couple of the different mannerisms that they can use to change character. One of the biggest definitely was for the plot, and I feel like for the plot, it was just fucked up overall. But then at the same time, their plot was selling a movie about women and overcoming adversity.
Yeah.
Hardly, and that was more important than the actual like story they were writing. It's like our plot, women doing this. Wait, what about the comic story? Oh, we'll focus on that second.
Yeah. And like the reason I always compare Wonder Woman to Captain Marvel is not even because so much they're both female led movies. It's because I look at it this way: making Marvel into what they made him into, that'd be like making Steve Trevor into just the goofy female sidekick to Wonder Woman.
Right.
Like that'd be so fucked up.
I imagine it's a cartoon my little sister loved, but it actually gained a huge following. Kim Possible. Remember that little Ron bastard? The little blonde little bitch nobody who kept following around Kim? Yeah. It reminds me of that, where it's like, your job's just comic relief. Mm-hmm. You don't really do much support here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd
I
be
mean,
like,
granted, I don't know the show that well, guys, so don't bastardize me, please. I don't know, but yeah.
But that kind of almost dovetails into another thing here, because I do feel that like if Disney had the rights to Wonder Woman, Steve probably would have been a female, which leads me to like another kind of mentality that we can dive into later, which is, I guess almost about a year ago now, we did an episode called, I think it was called Superhero Diversity. Go check that out if you guys haven't heard that one. But we talked about in that episode like diversity in the comics and in the movies and how that translates and whatnot, and how it's been done lazily in the comics, and it's also at times been done lazily in movies. I mean, hell, there's been a lot of that too that people have had problems with.
Yeah.
Such as the Ancient One. How it went from a super old wise Asian man to Tilda Swinton, in Doctor Strange. So it's like what brought this change about? And while I enjoyed Tilda's overall performance,
we're mentioning a lot of examples. That one feels another one made to kind of the first classification, which was the idea again of doing this to make a more guaranteed profit, Again, just to reiterate and to kind of help reorganize this, because we're throwing a lot of shit out there at once to the homies. The multiple reasons why character integrity is sacrificed. One, financial gain. The second one was changing a character to better fit the plot you want, rather than a good and great plot. One of the ones I mentioned here was also changing a character to make a different character look bigger. And the fourth one, we had a really good fourth one. What was it?
Yeah, the fourth one was assume that the audience doesn't know or doesn't care.
There you go. That's the fourth classification. There you go. Just to help reorganize this and to help kind of like make sure we haven't, convoluted ourselves. Yeah. But yeah, man, that's a lot of truth. And that's the sad. Those are sad examples here. We're pulling a lot from that, and another one, kind of going back to what I was talking about with changing a character to better fit the plot. There, the Hulk. I love the Hulk. I do. I think that we've had some cool Hulk material, but at the same time, we've watered down the Hulk in order to better fit the plot for a movie. Remember the first Avengers, whenever the Hulk was such a threat.
Yes.
And that was great because it served the plot too. They were hand in hand, and that's what made Avengers so cool during that part especially. Remember, but then later on, the Hulk became less and less and very much underpowered. And they kind of, pulled stuff away from him just to kind of better service the overall plot and the other characters there. When in reality, the Hulk could have been whooping ass and taking names, a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's kind of like a double-edged sword, sure, but that's nonetheless an example of our discussion tonight.
Yeah, the Hulk in many ways has suffered similarly to Thor. In the terms that even take away the comics completely, pretend that the fucking comics don't exist, even more than you already do. And if you look at both the Hulk and Thor, they have been inconsistent within the realms of the MCU.
Yep.
And like you said, it was perfect. Him and Thor, if you look at both of them, and Thor and Thor 1, and Thor and Avengers 1, and the Hulk in Avengers 1, and look at them as the movies progress, they become almost just comedic shells of themselves.
Right.
And that's just within the confines of the MCU. Once again, not even talking about the comics.
No.
You're talking about...
In the comics, they're them. Yeah.
And that's kind of something that's also interesting is that, even within the comics that have a lot of these characters have damn near 70, if not 80 years of lore behind them. Characters such as the Hulk and Thor within the comics have solely remained, like, as far as who they are, the same. As far as their power scale, it's been the same. Like this whole thing about, once again, changing them for the service of your plot, just because I need you to be only this strong because that's what the story dictates.
Exactly.
Is a pretty egregious sin in my book.
No, it really is, dude. And that is exactly the stuff that breaks down your character's integrity and gives us, an audience, a lesser version of what we need to get, or what the story should even get, And that's what creates a lot of the, disgruntled feelings you and I get when we come home and we say, the movie was a fun movie, but what the fuck did they do?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, man. And that's
well, I'm gonna pick on MCU one last time, and I think I say one last time, probably not.
Yeah.
But I think that's just because we're at a point now where we have Marvel fans and then we have MCU fans, and they're not the same.
Oh, that's such a toxic statement, but so fucking true. Dadgum, that makes me so sad.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. And that's poisonous for us as fandoms, because that means, and how many of you out there, how many homies can lie to me and tell me they haven't had a conversation with someone who only knows the movies and doesn't understand the comics, and they think that everything the movies derived is a religious truth, like it's gospel, like it's sacred. And they hold to it like an idiot. And you're just like, wait, no, bro, that's not the way it is. That's the way the big screen did it. But don't only pay attention to the idiot box, and how many of us has had to put up with that?
Yeah.
And that's what that statement is. That's what that is. Because it's like, no, you're not a Marvel fan. You're an MCU fan, motherfucker.
And I, we see this not really walking that much of a tightrope, because, like, I know people on the other side of this fence who just fucking bash people who only like the movies, and you shouldn't be that asshole either.
No. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely not what I was.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Yeah.
Put the boxing gloves down. But
yeah. But I mean, no.
In fact, we should help encourage them to, hey, look at the book. They're in here too.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's for example, how many times have we used the example about Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, or I mean, if we watch Harry Potter, that too, because all those have books full of rich lore, history, canonical characters, and source material that they derive from. People who read the source material understand that shit a whole lot better than we do, which is movie watchers.
In this particular episode's case, they understand those characters a lot better than most of us do. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a pretty big thing, because I'm sure that there's a lot of changes, that are made mention, and like if somebody who vehemently knows the source material talks about that, I mean, me being me, I'm gonna sit and listen to you. I'm not gonna fucking argue with you, because I don't have a leg to stand on.
Right. And here's another reason why that's so important. So there's a power behind written text. That is literally the idea, guys. Think about it real quick. The idea of a book, the idea of a comic book even, that is the power that we as humans have to transcribe thought that is going to last for years and decades and eons to come after we are long gone. And so think about it like this. That means that on the pages of these sacred books and comic books that we talk about so fucking often, that means that the motivations, the cares, and the things that these characters have, deeper truths to them that make them such a relatable and even more in-depth personage for us, it's only there. They might not make time or make care or passion to transcribe that to the big screen, so all we get is a fun, actiony, with a little bit of comedy and romance bit for an hour and a half to 2 hours, which is great and fun, because we trust us, we're going to keep doing it, but at the same time, there's a deeper, richer truth to that is lost only to the pages, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so that's where a book fan who's like, nah, bruh, I'm an MCU and Marvel fan, and I get that, and there's value in that, and that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely, because we are those.
Exactly. And fucking it sucks whenever they take the value of what that is and rip it to shreds, and only take a few slices of the pie with them, and only take a few strands of truth and then distort them nonetheless.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right.
Yeah.
But you know, with the MCU, like I gotta give them roses and slap them on the wrist at the same time, because it's like
slap them on the wrist with the roses, thorns.
It's like your very first movie was Iron Man, which was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible for multiple reasons. One, if you never even heard of Iron Man or picked up an Iron Man comic book, you could watch that movie and you essentially got his history and a great fucking movie.
Yeah. And the characters were so damn true to it, but I'm beating a dead horse. Yeah, so.
But the thing of it is that obviously we always talk about Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal as Tony Stark, how that's so fucking dead on, and how the character for Tony Stark was written incredibly well.
Yeah,
he was a futurist. He's a bit of a narcissist at times, a bit of an asshole at times,
philanthropist, playboy, the whole fucking yard.
Oh yeah, absolutely, all of that. And it's like you guys have treated this character extremely well. But then by the time we get to Avengers 1, I'm like, I think you guys maybe treat him too well. Where he can tank a hit from Thor. Let me, let's go.
Exactly. Whoa, pump them brakes. Yeah, that's a good example too.
Right. But that's once again going with your money maker,
right,
being the guy that's on top.
That actually also is a great lead in to the fourth category here I want to mention. Remember changing a character to make another character look good. And in that example, I'm going to pull that one from the woodwork here that you just mentioned. That scene from Avengers, Thor was the suffering in that case, where they made Thor look weaker to make Iron Man look stronger. His hit in comic stances would have fucked up that suit. We would have seen Tony Stark and not the Iron Man. Like that suit would have been opened and ricocheted from such a thunderous blast from Mjolnir, especially such an early model of Iron Man suit.
Yeah, one that wasn't prepared for that.
Exactly. And one didn't know better. One that would have, like, his batteries would explode because of that amount of power. So why did the movie do something so drastically different? Just because we're a fan of Iron Man? Just because Tony Stark is so damn cool from the first movie? That's not enough, guys. That's breaking down your character integrity. And that I'm thankful you brought that up, because that kind of brought us back in here for that fourth example there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Once again, that's just like a really small example that didn't make or break the movie. Obviously, I love Avengers 1.
Right. Another good example. And we make fun of these scenes often, but guys, the scenes we're making fun of, these are ones that we've also riped on so much in the past because they're bad scenes, and now you're understanding why the fuck they're bad scenes. Spider-Man. Endgame. Remember the scene whenever he's all of a sudden they make him out to be a little boy, and all the women have to come to his aid. That's I'm grateful that we wanted to put a female empowerment scene in the movie. Unfortunately, that was such a displaced and awkward scene that it was uncomfortable even for the audience members, and most people everywhere were kind of like, what the fuck is this? Why are you pandering to me? But remember, guys, at the beginning of that scene, they did that by making Spider-Man look like a bitch. Yeah,
Peter Parker,
they downplayed his character to make Captain Marvel and Valkyrie and all the other women who were conveniently beside each other.
And
look better.
everybody says, "Oh, that's the A-Force reference to like the female group in the comics." I'm like, well, how come we barely have any A-Force members in this shot?
Right? No. That was a reference to every woman on the field.
Right.
That's all that. That's what that was. You know.
Uh-huh.
Granted, I encourage ideas like that. Sure, please hit me up, but don't. Actually, you have the best example of it. Give them your example, because that drives that shit home.
Yeah. So I mean, for those who don't know, I am a black man. And
What?
yeah.
What the fuck?
What the fuck is this? Some homies are like, I'm turning this shit off now. I didn't know that was the case.
Oh fuck! But interracial podcasting.
I mentioned before how I would absolutely hate it if we had a scene in Endgame with Black Panther, Falcon, and War Machine, if they all just happened to team up together for a cool bro moment. I would have fucking thrown my popcorn at the screen. The fuck are you doing? Like, because that shit is pandering to me, and that you're babying me, assuming that I need this to feel like I have a presence validated. No, you doing justice to those characters is what validates that for me as a black comic fan. And I can't speak for my female comic fans out there. I don't know how they felt about this scene. Maybe for some, I'm sure it was empowering.
Yeah.
But I'm also sure that for others, they probably felt that as a little bit pandering too. If you notice, Kevin, there's a big difference between that scene in Endgame and the scene in Infinity War with Black Panther, or with Black Widow, Okoye, and Scarlet Witch.
That was a great scene.
That was a great scene.
And that was... So let's go back into the positive of tonight's subject here.
Yes.
Thank you for driving that home, man, because that's
yeah.
hook, line, and sinker. Sing it, brother. Sing it. But
Battleship is gone. It's been sunk. Sunken.
yeah. That's the biggest ship in the Battleship game, right? Right? Think that's the one with the
Right.
5 pegs.
5 pegs,
I think,
something like-
and
yeah.
it was long and we know what we're talking about. But yeah, I digress. I'm gonna shut the fuck up about the board game now. But yeah, no, the scene in Infinity War with just those 3 characters right there. One, we understood and we saw how they were positioned to be that close to one another.
Yes.
We saw the lead into that. It wasn't pandering. It made sense. It continued to tell the story well. It served its purpose, but at the same time did not downgrade the current events of the story being the actual battle and war itself. It wasn't displaced, and it made all of those women look great.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
All
and
of them.
it was reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't have to downplay another fucking character to make
No.
these women look great.
As a matter of fact, with that scene in Infinity War, they actually did the characters a lot of justice because they were all fighting Proxima, who, yes, is the female member of the Black Order. She's also arguably the best fighter as well.
Right.
But even with that though, it didn't feel like pandering because they paid careful attention to how the characters were portrayed.
Yep.
They paid careful attention. They knew that, okay, Proxima is fucking strong. She's a beast. So they had Black Widow and Okoye both trying to hold their own against her.
Yeah.
And then you have the real powerhouse, Scarlet Witch, coming through and wreck house. And they even take time to point. Why didn't you start with her? Why didn't you bring her out?
Why the fuck wasn't she on the front lines? Yeah.
That was such a great scene because you're not pandering. You're playing those characters.
Yep.
And that's the whole point of this episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's that scene had character integrity.
Yes.
In game's all women scene, which downplayed Spider-Man and upplayed so many women who shouldn't been on the field at the same time together in that fashion.
When did you have time to do this pose off? Like this shit going
Right? Like, I'm sorry. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. I have to stop fighting. I need to go over there to that part of the battlefield.
Thanos said I needed to kill you though.
No, stop. I gotta go to this part of the battlefield. Okay.
See you later. Is it all the women? I'm so sorry.
It's the women's scene. Okay.
just
don't be sexist.
Gotcha. Just let me know when you're done. Okay.
I'll come back, but we'll fight later.
Gotcha.
Okay. Just stand here and wait for me.
I'll go over here and find Black Panther.
Yeah.
I'll punch him.
And that was like Wasp or something. Have that conversation. But anyways, guys,
And they don't even know each other.
and they don't even know each other, right? All these women are just like, oh wait, woman, yeah, oh okay, yeah, fuck it, let's go. But
God damn.
we're having way too much fun.
Oh, we are, man. Like, and then
man.
like, there's just the I'm gonna make this word up here. The overpowerification of Captain Marvel. Holy shit! Tanking a punch from Thanos.
Right.
From Thanos with the full fucking Infinity.
That's
Gauntlet?
another great example of of the first and fourth example tonight here.
Mm-hmm.
One, you did that shit just to make money off Captain Marvel. Sell some of those toys, make her look badass for all the people out there. Two, You downplayed Thanos. Who would have fucked Captain Marvel up?
Without a gauntlet. Let me be clear.
Yeah.
Without a gauntlet.
He didn't need a gauntlet to fuck her up.
He doesn't need a gauntlet to fuck any single one of them up.
Yeah. Go to the comics.
Yeah. It's funny how they did such a great job doing that with Hulk and Thanos. How they displayed how if Thanos is on his P's and Q's, he's gonna take Hulk down.
Yeah. And that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
That's comic book truth. Like, that's happened.
Yes.
Unfortunate to the Hulk, but yeah.
Right.
So that's the difference between downplaying a character to upscale another one. That's actually true to the characteristics and the actual power levels, which is another important clause for a comic book super being.
It is.
Something we didn't discuss earlier, but for comic book super people, it's there.
Right.
Hulk's power level is that's Dragon Ball Z. Excuse me. Hulk's power ability, his abilities are lesser than that of Thanos when it comes to fisticuffs, boom, boom, boom. Because Thanos is gonna tear Hulk up.
Yes,
that's in the pages. That's on the screen. That was true.
He is smart enough, of course, to take the Hulk down quickly before the Hulk angers ramps up, because that's the problem that he doesn't want to have to deal with.
Right.
But even still, Thanos versus Hulk, 9 out of 10 times, Thanos is going to win because he's fucking Thanos.
Yep.
I mean, he has been written to be the super powerful being in both the comics and the, and the movies. But
and also in the comics, Thanos takes down Captain Marvel without a glove. Sometimes without even a fucking weapon, just fist.
A funny sidebar. I told you recently. I just recently finished reading Jonathan Hickman's entire arc on Avengers.
Hell yeah.
Everything that Jonathan Hickman has done for the Avengers, I've read from beginning to end. His entire fucking arc. It's been amazing, fantastic read. But there's one section in there where there's basically a little bit of a split between our heroes. You can call it like a mini civil war. It's basically like Team Illuminati.
A civil battle.
Yeah. But there's one point where one team with Reed Richards and Hank McCoy, Beast.
The smart guys.
The smart guy. Yeah. Basically, the smart people from the Illuminati, Black Panther, like they're all on one team, and they have Banner with them, the Hulk.
Yeah.
And is against basically Team Cap. And they're like, and War Machine has like this drove of War Machine suits that he's controlling. Like, it's just an arm.
Awesome.
Yeah. And he's working with Team Cap, of course. And he's like, Cap, we need to send in the big guns. I am almost out of War Machine suits. Like, Hulk is just tearing through them like they're nothing. And then Captain Marvel, who is also on Team Cap, she looks at Captain America and goes, let me go handle my business. And Cap goes, fucking do it, Carol. He doesn't say fucking, but
language.
Yeah, language. And so Carol comes down like a fucking like ball of fire, drives Hulk through the ground with this thunderous punch, stands there with a smile on her face. She looks down. The next panel, the Hulk is smiling. He says, "Is that all?" He sends her ass into low orbit with a single fucking punch. A single fucking punch.
Damn.
Now, that, I mean, what am I supposed to do with that information versus what we have seen?
And now, real quick, I do feel a certain threat looming in the distance. So, homies, please don't paint us as having a bias or having a masochism for Captain Marvel's demise. That's definitely not the case here. We just think that she's been overinflated in this particular timing of her story. Yeah, because I guess at this point it wouldn't be impossible to surmise, like, man, these guys really don't like the character. That's not the point. The character's dope. Yeah, but
she's all right. Like I said, she's not.
I was about to say the idea of Captain Marvel itself. Oh yeah, you know. But yeah, no, dude, that's a great point. That is, because I mean, at that point, that's not rock paper scissors. That's rock, scissors, and like another pair of scissors.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's like a live action Dragon Ball Z movie where, Krillin is actually the one who comes through, or Nappa is stronger than Vegeta, or you just make so many changes that make no sense.
Could you imagine the Dragon Ball Z community? They wouldn't stand for that shit.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess at this point, like, the community was like, we already had evolution. It can't get any worse.
That's true. That's true. The fans have stuck around. They've survived.
Right.
We're battle hardened.
If we can make it through that, we can make it through anything.
Wow, man. To Dragon Ball Z.
To Dragon Ball Z, man.
And, excluding Evolution.
Yeah, that's the silver lining to having like one of the worst movies ever. Is that it can't get any worse.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dragon Ball, though. That's awesome series. But anyways,
man. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
But we speak, about a lot of these changes that are made for the worst. How about we kind of dovetail really quick, maybe to a couple of changes that were made maybe for the better.
Sure. Yeah. So a character that's made for the better, or a character change that's made for the better, that's good. In fact, that can be a gift to the character, a gift to even consequently the writer and the author who has created said character. A lot of times a change in that regard, because I do have notes for that as well, my brother, get out of my fucking head. That needs to happen. For one, you can look at it as a type of growth. In that case, the writing gave character growth where they kind of added substance to them, or we'll talk about that, of course, in greater detail in a second here. A lot of times that's going to look like a character that's been given a more grounded sense, a character that's been made relatable, realistic, more likable for some degree. It made that character more easily able for an audience member like ourselves to become vested in what they do and what they want and in the happenings around them. It makes the character memorable. It could leave the readers or the audience members just generally wanting more of this particular character. And I already got some great examples in mind for that person. It can make them more multidimensional, imperfect. Oh, of course, growing throughout the story and just make them actually, ultimately, and this is one of my favorite ones, elicit emotion from us as the audience or the readers, And sometimes changes are made to the character which promote those things. And that is worth celebrating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's the opposite case of what we've been raving tonight about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. And, I mean, the MCU, we talked about all the cases they had of not doing the characters justice.
And we mentioned a couple of positives.
Yeah. But, I mean, we're definitely going to mention some now, though.
Hell
because that, like, they do have some that are done... plausibly or could be considered slightly even better than the comic book counterparts.
Right, and that's unfortunately it's not as common.
True.
But when it happens, it's noted, and the audience for said character either actually becomes or it grows dramatically.
Yes.
Yeah.
One, for example, that we've always raved about is, of course, Vulture.
Dude, that was the one in my mind whenever it's like, oh, this character became so much more likable and so much more grounded that consequently it made me want to know more about that character. It made me want to see what happened to them. And it made me elicit like a type of emotion like, damn, man, Vulture became cool.
Yeah.
Vulture became a better character because of the movie.
What are the fucking chances of that? So the thing about the Vulture guys, at least in the terms of the comic, is that for me, he's just never been a very likable villain.
Yeah, please paint the image of what comic Vulture was prior to Homecoming.
Yeah, so Vulture, Adrian Toomes, he's just an old man in a flying suit. He gets angry when he's outed from his company, and he develops his flying suit technology to wreak havoc and vengeance on those that did him wrong. That's
the flying suit technology, by the way, doesn't look very technological. It's a fucking pair of wings.
It looks terrible. Yeah. It looks like an old, scrawny, frail, bald man in this lazily made suit. That's what it looks like. So you guys can kind of understand like my worry when I heard that Homecoming was going to use the Vulture as the villain. Okay, so in my mind, Kevin, I've always had this picture in my mind that Sony has purposely only given the Marvel Cinematic Universe like the worst possible villains.
Right.
Like, okay, I'm sure that Kevin Feige was all right, cool. So we're gonna use Scorpion, we're gonna use Rhino. We get to use Doc Ock and Venom, right? And so whoa, wait.
Exactly. Sony's like, no. Here, these are the cards we were more giving to you.
I think that these would be perfect for you guys, and they just
they give us Vulture
to start
Mysterio,
off with, and technically like we get like a version of Scorpion, but he, anyways,
right. That's another discussion.
But no, so they get Vulture, and I'd imagine a lot of people's surprise, this version of the Vulture is definitely better than anything I've ever read of him in the comics.
Right? I mean, the character became one of the top, most liked, best represented villains in all of the MCU, which is astounding because holy fuck, that Vulture character from the comics, that's nowhere near the top. That's like bottom tier, bottom barrel bullshit. But then all of a sudden you get the right actor in the role and you put someone who cares about the writing for said character and kind of give them more stuff, more detail, more of those little things which then build to become the bigger things. And you got a great character.
Yeah.
First off, they gave him a great motivation.
Yeah, it's a great backstory.
Yeah. The one in the movie, disgruntled worker for the city who was laid off by this other fucking organization that came in and took the city workers' jobs and took all their means of living.
That was actually a subsidiary of Stark Industries.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
technically, Tony Stark stole him and his guys' fucking jobs.
Yep, and took all the alien tech from the Avengers. All of a sudden, him and his crew, soon to be Vulture, they, however, keep a fair chunk of alien material that they've already excavated, and they use it to basically create and build other cool shit for themselves in order to help go get other stuff and sell it on the black market.
Right, to make more money and to survive.
Yeah, hence the cool guns that we see and the crew members and the actual Vulture suit, which looked amazing.
Looked great. Like the bomber jacket.
The pilot helmet and everything.
The pilot helmet, and he looked vicious.
Yeah.
They made the Vulture look fucking vicious?
Yep.
What? I still don't believe it. And I've seen the movie like 3 times. Still don't believe it. And also, it does also help that Michael Keaton was who they cast.
And on top of that, not only great casting, also Michael Keaton, but on top of that, they gave the character motivation.
They did.
And a motivation, mind you, that can elicit emotion from us. Because, oh fuck, he's a family man. He's doing all this illegal shit to support his family.
That's great.
Yeah. That's grounding. That's that duality of man shit right there. That's playing on the, oh fuck, he's a villain. I feel like I need to not like him, but man, he's relatable as fuck right now. Ooh wee.
Yeah.
That's, oh my gosh, dude. It's again, guys. And if I haven't made it clear at this point, let me make it clear now. These basic details that build your character and make them into such an important part whenever you create someone whose purpose is to move the plot forward and to help tell your story. They all go hand in hand.
Yes.
A great motivation for a character will definitely elicit some type of emotion from your audience and make them want more and make them care and give a fuck about what you're writing, It will bring that person able to have growth, to have some type of realistic and even likable adaptation. Guys, tonight should have driven home how fucking important this is.
Yeah. And this kind of leads to like another thing that we've talked about almost ad nauseum, being that a lot of times the villains just don't get their due.
Yeah, and there's too many examples for
There's
that.
way too many. I mean, that's just a common thread among superhero movies, unfortunately. But, like I said with the Vulture, man, he really has such an interesting and creative background that was different from the comics. Not just different, but better. I mean, plain and simple, no offense, this is just better.
Yep.
And I mean, like it's just better. But there are other examples that I have. This one is a little less severe.
Okay.
But still, I think that maybe because of the timing of it, makes it more prevalent. And that is Eric Killmonger.
I was about to say the timing definitely helps in what I believe you're talking about. But yeah, dude, that's another great example.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like he's also really great in the comics too. And, you know, in the comics, it is a little bit more driven by how he wants revenge on King T'Chaka, and thus he's dead. Well, his son, you know, King T'Challa, for the bad things done to his family. You know, I mean, he has a very, very cool origin in the comics. He has a very cool origin also in the movie. It is slightly different, but also similar. It's similar enough so that you get the fucking point.
Yeah.
But what they do also is that in the comics, it is also partially driven by it's more presented as he wants to drive out the quote unquote white culture that's been infiltrated in Wakanda, and he wants to, by doing that, overthrow T'Challa and take what he feels is his rightful spot on the throne. Whereas in the movie, it was, where were you and your people? Where was Wakanda when there's so many other black people who have been suffering over the years? Where were you? You didn't do anything to help. I can use these resources and I can help, whether it be by your choice or by force.
And that was powerful, man.
Yeah.
I mean, oof. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it had me kind of sitting back and thinking, you know, like, fuck, man, colonizers. Oof. And if it hasn't been made clear, guys, I am a white person. And it's like, well, fuck me, man.
It's one of those cool things though, because I mean, honestly, like, had he just been like your typical run of the mill villain, like I was afraid he was gonna be,
Right.
then the whole movie as a whole just isn't nearly as good.
Right.
But because you have a really compelling villain with a really compelling motive, you can't help but to like him as a villain and to see where this goes.
Yeah, man. I'm right there with you on that, dude. Because Killmonger was another great example of that. Another one I thought of, which is a little unfair because this branched very close to our first example, Mysterio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mysterio is another one. Again, less dramatic and severe of an impact as Vulture or even Killmonger, I'll give. But in the movie, the news story that they wrote for him being a disgruntled ex-Stark employee who really just wants to have his turn at the throne after Tony Stark has, left this, mortal coil, as you will say, thought he deserved it. Noticed it was being given to this other punk kid. I don't care if the kid's Spider-Man. Why don't I have it? I've been such a loyal employee to this. We've been loyal employees with this whole team of people who helped him build this illusion of this super awesome, out of this world superhero, multi-dimensional. Look at what I can do. Look at the things I fight. And yeah, what they did with Mysterio in that movie was another just vast improvement, I feel like, from what we've received before. Yeah. Or at least the cool backstory version that they've given him for the movie.
Yeah. I like Mysterio in the movie. I mean, I guess I'm kind of tired of Tony Stark wronged me, therefore I have to.
Yeah, I mean, they sat on that a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I really enjoyed Jake Gyllenhaal. I enjoyed him once you really got into being Mysterio.
You mean when the movie actually began around the second half?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I was actually having that conversation with a coworker earlier today. Oh, you mean you watched the movie? Did you? Because he told me he fell asleep during the movie, right? Because he started watching it at 5 a.m. or something like that. Like, wow, dude, go get some rest. Right. Be healthy. But he fell asleep obviously in the middle of it, and I asked him, "Oh, did you actually get to the part where the movie began, or did you just kind of see the first half?" And he was confused at what I meant, so I guess he didn't make it to the second half. Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, because like I got to be honest, guys. Like, you can go back and listen to our Far From Home review, but for the first half of the movie, I was like, yeah, this is fine. Here we go. We see Peter and Mysterio fighting giant CG monsters that are literally CG monsters. Like, this is it's fine. It picked up for me when Mysterio really channeled in comic book Mysterio.
There you go.
And they, like, once again, cool fucking kudos to to the special effects department and the people who wrote that scene when Mysterio first mind fucked Spider-Man into getting hit by a train. That entire scene was pure magic, and it made me feel like a kid. And it's one of my favorite comic book movie scenes of all time.
Yeah.
Because they adhered to what Mysterio is.
There you go. But yeah, man.
There is kind of one more I want to talk about with the asterisk by it, because I feel like this is one that people kind of have confused a little bit, and that's mostly that. Yeah.
Okay.
and that's mostly that with Thanos, for example. I feel that there are people out there who think that Thanos has a much better appearance in the movies than he does in the comics.
So define appearance, because I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. So not just cosmetic, but in terms of how,
think so.
in terms of how he is, they think that Thanos
in other words,
is done much better.
his reasoning.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, they think his reasoning is much better. They think that he's overall a more fleshed out and well done character in the movies than in the comics.
Okay. I mean, they did a great job of presenting it and really kind of defining and expositing it for the audience, I would say. But I'm not sure. I wouldn't as much call it different, though, because the comics do a pretty awesome job of clearly clarifying.
Yes.
Nah, bruh. I'm here to gentrify and to equalize this galaxy. You know, we need. Well, never mind. We've been there. We've talked about that. Yeah. So.
And it was funny because like I didn't realize that there were so many people that felt this way until I saw a YouTube video. And this YouTube video was basically talking about how he thought that Thanos was better in the movies than the comics, and this is why. And then, no disrespect, I'm not going to try to sound like I'm holier than thou when it comes to comics, but it became apparently clear that this guy just didn't know his material very well.
Right.
It was a very surface level material.
And just to cover up for you, brother, I wouldn't even say that was a holier than thou comment. That was just you making an astute observation. There you go. There you go.
My lawyer has spoken.
There you go. All right. Objection. Overruled. No, wait. I'm a lawyer. I can't say that. Oh, wait. Here's a better example for you. It's like going to a mechanic who obviously doesn't know everything they need to talk about. You know? It's like, so it looks like the brake pads by the front wheels are not doing well right now. It feels like they're really thin. So we're just going to replace those for you.
Right.
I never want to hear my mechanic talk like that.
Yeah.
No, what the fuck?
When in reality, it looks like your calipers are starting to rust, and you may want to get those replaced along with a brake job all the way around, and also because of that, your tires are worn thin. So you want more from your.
I mean, I don't want like a fucking salesman, but I do want an honest, knowing.
Telling.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. See, good teamwork. Yeah.
But essentially what his thinking was on this YouTube channel was that Thanos, his whole thing about wanting to bring a balance to the universe because he saw all the atrocities happening from overpopulation and whatnot, how it was causing such a serious damage, and he was like, Thanos from the comics just wanted to do it to please Lady Death, where, I mean, honestly, guys, if you just, I mean, there's a lot of material there to kind of show that Thanos, his whole motive from the beginning was he saw the atrocities.
Yep.
So it was really just one of those astute things that Marvel did where they looked, thankfully, deeper than the surface level.
Yep.
And they looked at who Thanos was and what really drove him. You have to look at not just his love for Lady Death, but why he loves Lady Death.
Yep.
And that really is where you get to the core of who Thanos is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who you have to thank for that, be that Kevin Feige or the Russos or whomever in production's house, but thank you guys.
Yeah, I mean, as far as villains go, especially for Marvel, if there's only one that you get right, you better make it
better be him, because he was the big-ass arc villain of the all... Whoa, that sounded weird. That was kombucha in the back of the throat, guys. But of all 12 years of the movies, he was the big overarching arc guy. Yeah. So, that's another great example of benefits characters have received from little changes, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, they didn't include Lady Death, but I don't think that for me, that didn't ruin anything
Right.
for me as far as Thanos goes, because Thanos was technically that same way whether she was there or not.
Yep.
That was just like the super delicious icing on the cake for him. That this pleased Lady Death.
Yeah.
You know. So,
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
But yeah, it made me a little discomforted because you know, I went through the comment section, that's the video, and there's a whole lot of people saying, "Oh man, thanks, I didn't know this."
Oh.
And that's the worst. You don't want that.
Did you send him a link to the superhero homies? You should send him a link.
I should have.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah. And no, we're not going to say the name of that YouTube video.
No, I don't even remember, so thank goodness.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, sweet. No copyright infringement.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, anyways, guys. And so that's, unfortunately, those are some of the rare benefits there, where we talk about, like, character changes, which were for the better.
Yeah.
You know, and that's its own separate school of thought versus what we've been talking about, which is character changes, and why sometimes that can be venomous
Right.
for our characters that we love and know, you know. Yeah, man.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Kevin. So
What's
we talked, like you said, we just talked a little bit about, you know, some changes that were made that seemed to be for the better.
Yeah, just the
what,
synopsis there. Yeah.
What do you think are some examples of when it would be appropriate to make a change? Like, if you were given the helms to write or direct a superhero movie, with what change do you think are appropriate?
Right. So that's a mixed bag. That really is. Because okay, I'm going to give you two examples. And there's a little bit of discussion behind them, so get ready. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Two examples. So, there are changes I would make if I knew that the changes did not impact the story I was going to tell. Because you best believe, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that I ain't no hypocrite when it comes to wanting to tell a story and being able to have great and powerful characters to drive my plot, to tell that story, to develop that arc of character growth, and to show you guys what I want to tell you, you know? I would know, or at least I would feel out and ask myself, is this a change that would ultimately impact the story in a negative way? Example of that, Fight Club. That's a movie that we have such a deep passion for. There is a line that is used in the books, a very small line. Okay, yeah, you're catching up. You know what I'm thinking. But there's a line that's used in the books that they did not put in the movies. And it's a little bit of a discomforting line. It's a little bit of a rated R and or NR line.
Yeah,
you know?
I think NR.
NR might be the top rating there.
And it's just a line, you know. It's just
a line.
a single spoken sentence.
But here's the thing: the change that they made in the movie didn't. For us who know the source material, it was a little offbeat because we were just like, "Oh, they didn't say it. Oh, okay."
Right.
But
I mean,
to anyone else, it's like, "Oh, wow, that's still kind of
it's still a very an atrocious thing to say."
Right, yeah. And you guys can watch the movies. I'm not going to repeat them here. I don't remember the verbatim, but I do remember line A and line B pretty damn well. But that's just one example where it's like, okay, this line does not serve a purpose. Another, like, other examples of that, say there was like a story I want to tell, and there's a really strange and elongated sex scene or something there. I don't need that to tell a story. If I was put in the director's chair, given such power, or a producer's chair, and given that much influence over the script or something, I wouldn't sit and stew on that like certain stories might. You know, I might, you know, water that down. There you go. But that's less character science and more scene science. So, excuse me. Let me correct myself. However, that's example one. I told you I have two. The second is touchy. And for the second example of scenes I may or may not change. If I'm telling a story that was based out of a different mindset than our present day, or give me a second, let me find the words. If I was telling a story which is from a different social mentality than the one that might be found acceptable or comfortable in today's society. Example, if I told a story that was based out of a more blatant racist or ageist or sexist time frame or mindset, be that, than today. Did you know that there was a cartoon? I don't remember what cartoon, and I'm not going to try to plagiarize or even blaspheme this show, but they had a disclaimer that they would play before an episode. This episode has content in it which might be seen as racist, sexist, blah, 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 blah. And we did not change it because it is the material from the original telling.
Yeah.
This is not our point of view. However, we're keeping to the artist's integrity and not changing the story and telling it the way that they told it.
And when you know it, that was Disney.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I know, right? I didn't remember. But yeah, I digress. I get back to my point here. In certain moments like that, say if I was retelling a story that has a scene that was really driving home a plot, and it is an uncomfortable and hard scene to watch that has like an unfortunate happening to a certain character, or a very racist phrase or set of actions is put into place, like like a lynching or hanging of sorts, or like something like that, I would have to really debate whether or not I would change it. Because if the scene's purpose was to drive home a plot to teach a certain principle there, or to really, really drive home the essence of the story I want to tell, which is, whatever in this particular case, like, oh, fuck racism, or hey, let's move past this and that, whatever have you, fill in the blank for me, I'm not sure I could change it. Because that's the original integrity of the story.
And that would also sound like a very integral part of the character. Like if the character was just
exactly
overtly racist, even if that's your lead, then and if you're adapting that character for modern day, I mean, I feel like he's still
right.
Yeah,
like in that particular case, I'm kind of sitting on racism here a little bit, but that's an easy, very social hot topic for us to hit on. If I was telling a movie set in that time period, and all of a sudden I have Jim Crow as a character, you best believe I'm not going to change his character just to be more fucking likable. No, I'm going to put him as to the most truthful version of himself as he was, which was a racist old ass white dude. So there you have it. And I'm not going to change him to make people more comfortable. I'm going to keep the story's truth,
right,
and take a hit at the box office. But hopefully that answers your question and the two parts I wanted to discuss.
Yeah.
What about you though, dude? That was a bit of my monologue. What about you?
So I think about it in terms of things to come.
Okay.
And just keeping in line, I guess, a little bit with the MCU here. Like,
sure.
I kind of I don't really assume this, but I guess it's more of an optimistic hope.
Sure.
That their next big bad will be Victor Von Doom.
Awesome.
And if Doctor Doom is the next big baddie for Marvel, for those of you who are fans of Doctor Doom or who know of Doctor Doom, then you know that there's just absolutely no way that you can adapt his story to the big screen. It's too much, and it's a tad bit convoluted, and there's been some retconnings done. And so I think about, like, you would have to make some changes to Doctor Doom in order for him to work. And that worries me a bit, because here's a man who dabbles in both extreme science, technology, but also magic. And I've been trying to think for the past few days, how do you take a character like Doctor Doom, and because he will have to be changed. I know that I've accepted that, but it's more like, how do you stay true to such a character, but also, I don't want to say simplify him, but how do you make him more easily digestible for an audience that majority of the audience won't know who this is?
That's a challenge.
Yeah,
because that's such a tricky game to play, and that's why you have to get the right minds and the right passionate people who actually care about the product behind the lines there, who are in control of the writing. That's such a great point you bring up, because either A, you water down his story to be this niche, really overly told, lazy, just uninspired story where it's just, we've seen this before. This could be related to like 50 other villains just off the top of my head type thing, or you really fuck it up and it's just, wait, what the fuck is this? This is nowhere near what it is. This is something totally different. So how do we get a correct and accurate presentation of Doctor Doom from this?
Yeah.
And,
and also like, not even just in terms of power, that is something that I'm concerned about because
no, not power. Excuse me, like character, personage. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
I was saying
I
that,
didn't know
like,
if I said power or not.
Yeah, no, I was speaking of power just now, but
Sure.
Like, I mean, not just in terms of power that you have to worry about, because you do have to worry about that with Doctor Doom.
Yeah. He's powerful as fuck.
Yeah, and like where his powers derived from as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how they can properly display. Yes, he uses both science and magic. I don't know how they properly can display that, and at the same time, from a personality standpoint and from like a character arc as far as who he is, and like what about his mother's soul being stolen by Mephisto? Like, do you even go into that? That's what drives him to seek out so much magic in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, so like,
so at that point, I might consider doing something there. Maybe not as much detail, but have something pointed out in his backstory, because that's another important part of characters we haven't talked about yet. Your characters need to have a backstory, an explanation, even exposition, whatever have you, as to why they are, how they are, and definitely who they are and what they've become. So in that case, for someone like Doctor Doom, the challenge becomes telling the backstory in a non-confusing way that holds true to the actual things which inspired him. Be that the whole Mephisto Madre bullshit that happened there, and what inspired him to become magical and eventually super fucking technological. Yeah.
Also, how do you tackle him becoming King of Liberia? Like there's so many aspects to the character of Doom that are so complex. I can't say they're quite. Some things can be considered convoluted, but it's more just complex.
Right.
And it's like there's so much to him. I do agree with the masses that say he needs his own separate movie, but I also worry. I worry along with the masses that say, "Look, we've already gotten 2 attempts at Doctor Doom, and both have been atrocious."
I mean, everyone that's been talking has a pretty correct opinion thus far. It's they're not wrong.
Right. They're not wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's one of those things where I was actually I was listening to an interview some time ago with Damon Lindelof, who wrote.
Awesome.
He didn't write, but he was the showrunner for the Watchmen TV show recently. You guys, go check that show out if you haven't. Also, we do a podcast on it. Go check that out.
Yep.
But he was talking about like the process for hiring writers, and he said he would hire like some people who knew the lore in and out better than him. He said he would hire people who were maybe familiar with a little bit, like they've seen the Zack Snyder movie. Right. That's about it.
He would get a range.
Yeah, and he would get some people who just never fucking heard of it before.
Awesome.
He would also get people who completely agree with his vision. He'd send them out the door. People who said, "Well, I don't know about that, but maybe we could tweak some things here or there." Those he would consider.
Yeah, and that's smart, because he doesn't need another mind like his own. He needs something to challenge him.
Yeah. It's something that can challenge him and say, well, what about this?
Yeah.
And like I think with Doctor Doom, you maybe need something similar. Except.
So you need Damon Lindelof.
Maybe. Well, see, but here's the thing though. The reason why the Watchmen TV show was so goddamn good, Damon Lindelof loves the source material.
Does he love Doctor Doom? we need him on the show so we can convince him to love Doctor Doom. There you go. There's a problem solver right there. There's the answer to your question.
Oh shit!
But no, that is such an important part. And like I was talking about earlier, here it's just like I said too. You need someone who's capable and passionate about the writing.
Yes.
Damon Lindelof is such a great example when it comes especially to his recent project, The Watchmen, which was a great TV show, which we covered, by the way, all over our podcast. Wait, what? Spot time. But, yeah, That's it right there, dude.
Yeah.
Who's that person for Doctor Doom?
Who is that person?
Who's that
Indeed.
team
Yeah.
even, you know?
So I do have enough faith in Kevin Feige that he wouldn't let such a character go astray.
Right. He would understand how pivotal, how powerful this character is,
Yeah.
like Thanos, you
Yes.
know? I will make this joke, however. We didn't get Thanos' helicopter, so I'm sure if they wrote off one or two things, we'd be okay.
Oh shit! I would have loved Thanos copter.
Right.
It has no place in the movies, but I would have fucking loved it.
Imagine over the battle, he just has a random helicopter.
Oh shit! It would have been great. Like as soon as Cap is about to be defeated, and the portals open up and all the heroes step out, you just see Thanos running to the copter.
Yep. Just like, ooh.
No. He takes that giant blade of his, sits it on top of the chopper, spins it as his propellers.
No. He just like plops it in like a Lego or something. Just like,
oh shit!
right. Don't put us in the writing chair.
Or do.
Or do? All right,
Yes,
fuck
yes.
yeah. I'd take a spin at it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man.
You know,
character integrity.
Yeah, and so that was just something else I was thinking about. You know, as far as because some changes are necessary and appropriate. You know?
Hell yeah.
And like the Doctor Doom puzzle was just one that I was thinking about.
So here's the question I want to ask you, and this is gonna be fucking important. So don't mess it up.
Oh shit! I'm not good under pressure.
When is it appropriate to change a character?
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of what we were just mentioning here, but
Right.
yeah.
But no, if you had to summarize in one sentence for the
Oh.
homies right here and right now, what would that sentence be? Boom, doom, 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 doom.
When the light hits your eye like a big piece of pie.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
No.
Wait. No, that's like a little. What? My brain is.
When the light hits your eye like a big piece of pie.
That's amore. Yeah. Well, homies, if you want to hear Q and I have an entire 15-second segment where we sing "That's Amore," go ahead and like and subscribe now. Up.
Or you can get the whole album on our Patreon page. That's patreon.com.
There's an album of that.
We'll make one.
A couple of the songs have to be us doing accents, though.
But no, just to get to your point though, if I had to summarize it with one sentence, like when is it appropriate to change a character?
Yeah.
I would say it's appropriate to do when you feel that your character is too convoluted and you need to make it more streamlined, or if the character just really needs to be modernized.
Okay. I was about to say I agree with both of those. Yeah. To help make both of those and rope them into one here, one of the things I would actually even confess to the homies, I would even add to that, or even just help to summarize both of those into one principle, when it better serves the story. Because that's got to be the overarching thing. That's the heart of the gospel here that we preach so often. The story's got to be strong. To make a strong story, you have to have a driven plot with great characters.
The one small issue with that
What's that?
is people could be like, well, that's what happened with Ragnarok.
No. No.
The characters were changed to serve the story. And
Well, the story was changed too. And that, oh my gosh.
Everything.
Story Integrity's next episode.
Story Integrity's next episode. Yeah. For those of you also wondering why we always, joke about Ragnarok, we're covering Planet Hulk here really soon, so that'll give a lot more clarity.
Actually, yeah, that unfortunately, oh fuck, man. Oof. We threw away the all sorts. We threw away the all sorts guys. So that game set's been gone for some time. Unfortunately, they got rock hard.
Yeah,
No one wants
for
to
those
eat
of you
that.
who don't know, we had a bowl of nasty ass licorice that whenever we mentioned something, like whenever we shit on Captain Marvel, or whenever we shit on Ragnarok, or anything else that we commonly shit on,
Yep.
We were running the risk of having to eat one of those things because that was a no.
Shout out to the homie Sam. Thanks again for giving us Australian candy. The rest of the candy you gave us was dope and delicious, but hey, we talked about that. So yeah, and that's a particularly strange case because the characters and the story were altered from its originally known content. And again, all this, guys, is streaming from the idea that these characters, that the story here are pre-established characters.
Yeah.
If you're telling original works, then they're your characters. Do with them what you will. But a lot of the characters that we get from MCU are being pulled from the Marvel Comics, and those are pre-established, already known, with a population of fans knowing them.
Yeah.
And that's when it's like, wait, I know this person. Why is person A all of a sudden looking like person B?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did also want to talk a little bit about the integrity of just the comics within themselves as well. If we're not ready to go there yet, then we can continue on to with films and how.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, yeah, I was about to say, if you think that'll help out with the character integrity thing that we're going on for tonight, fuck yeah, man, let's do it.
Yeah. So, the thing about comics is that, specifically with Marvel and DC, as we mentioned before, is that, as I mentioned those two because they have the most lore behind them, damn near 70, 80 years of lore. So, obviously, these characters need to be at times retconned. Sometimes they need to be updated. They need to be modernized.
Good example of it, Superman. It's hard to follow and care about a character that's perfect. Again, highlighting the idea that these characters need to have imperfections. That's what helps make them relatable and, something we can actually have an emotion for.
Yes.
You got a perfect character, well, why do I need to read the story? I already know the story. He's gonna win.
Yeah, I already know that. Yeah, he's not gonna really be threatened.
Yeah,
he's gonna get rid of the foe.
He's gonna save everybody.
Yeah, he's gonna save everybody.
That's not a story. That's
I mean that worked for the late 30s and 40s and hell up until the pirate theme took over and superheroes became less relevant, and then back again in the 60s. But anyways. Yeah, you're right, because that is a great example. There was a Superman dilemma, and when we did our Death of Superman podcast, we talked about how Superman sales were tanking and they really needed to do something with the character. And it was kind of the perfect storm when they introduced Doomsday to the scene, and that did really reignite some things with the character. And, something else in my readings, man, thankfully, since like the early aughts or 2000s, thankfully, Superman in the right hands of the correct writer or storyteller has been pretty enjoyable.
Yeah.
And kudos to them because that's a hard mystery to solve, writing for somebody that seems so goddamn perfect. But the thing of it is that with the comics, though, there's also some changes that they have made just to fucking make them and to sell their own story. Yeah. And
that's another tricky one. Hopefully, homies, you can feel that there's been a progression in I guess the lecture, for lack of better words, of tonight's subject material here. Character integrity, super damn important. What happens whenever the canonical source material even attempts to change the character? Is I guess the question that could be introduced tonight.
Yes.
For what you're saying now.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully, guys, you got the first section there, and that's been well understood. Yeah.
And it's just whenever you take a character and you all of a sudden make them a legacy character, meaning that the characters are no longer who they are underneath the mask, but that is just an ideology that can now be passed on to someone else. It takes such a clever writing to make that work.
Which is funny you say that, because I feel like so many different genres, not just comic books and comic movies, but so many different genres attempt to do that.
Yes. Yes.
And they don't always hit.
No, they don't.
And
a lot of it has to do with, man, like you are replacing a very established character that once again has 50, 60, 70 years of history behind them that people have come to love and adore. When it's handled right and when it's thought out with time, and you can tell when it is, then it's typically well received and done well. But then there's other times when the lore simply just changed because you need to tell this story. And that happens within movies and comics.
Right.
An example is that I always praise Ed Brubaker for his run on Captain America. In my opinion, he has, bar none, the best run on Captain America. With that though, we get the reintroduction of Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, who had literally been dead in comics for decades.
Right.
We get him back, and then to continue on, we get the death of Captain America, and that leaves a chasm, that leaves a void. And people feel like the world needs Captain America. Bucky feeling repentant and feeling that he needs to kind of adjust his way of thinking and to avenge his friend Steve. He takes that mantle up. Now, if Steve just said, "Here you go, Buck, take this back, take the shield and take the mantle of my name," in other words, if it's done shitty, then it's received shitty.
Yep.
And if you give it to the wrong person, it's also shitty.
And again, sometimes writing like that can feel rushed, which can feel unemotional and detached, and really it kind of unplugs your readers and watchers and listeners and whatever have you, and makes them again just kind of feel like, what happened? Why did this all of a sudden come to pass so quickly? And it detaches them. You lose fans like that.
Yeah, I mean, you really do.
Yeah.
I mean, because it becomes a whiplash thing. It becomes, oh, you only killed him so you could do this.
Right.
And which is, once again, it's a shitty thing to do.
Right.
Because what does that story even mean?
Right.
And like the same thing's been done a lot of times. People say it's been done with Peter Parker and Miles Morales.
I was just thinking about that.
He got up to a rough start.
That same phrasing you just used was probably said more than once by a few fanboys.
Yeah. I mean, people were furious. People were like, "You killed Peter Parker just to replace him with a multi-race, just for just for cultural sake, just for diversity's sake." There's a lot of that going on, and Brian Michael Bendis, he'll tell you that he has like a couple of black daughters, and a lot of young black readers, and he wanted Spider-Man to represent what Brooklyn and Queens will look like today, not back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And while that's understandable, one thing that we also talked about before is maybe sometimes it's best to have a character have their own dynasty, their own legacy, versus trying to carry on someone else's. Peter Parker has fucking giant shoes to fill. Thankfully, Miles Morales has done a really great job, though.
He has, and he has received such a huge following that this has been the best version of the outcome.
Yes.
There's a universe out there where it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a universe out there where it never got better. And
Miles
it just
Morales
tanked.
is a forgotten character, and we were just like, wow, how do you know about that? You know? Yeah.
And so I mentioned these legacy characters. Spider-Man is obviously one of them, where that mantle can be passed down.
Yeah, I was about to say there's a few, There's a few.
It happened with Batman as well, and once
Wolverine.
Again, Wolverine, and these are cases where once again they're all different cases. None of them are all good. None of them are all bad.
Right. It's just numerous examples.
Yeah, numerous examples. Yeah. One that I don't particularly care for, and that I think wasn't handled quite as adeptly as others.
Okay.
Was with Thor. And once again, I hate to keep going back to Thor, but our roads kind of lead to him. Jason Aaron took the realms with the Thor character. Jason is a tremendous writer. He's currently writing Avengers. He's great.
Okay.
What he did with Thor, he made Thor into a title instead of a name,
which is really off-putting because even in the original lore, the actual material, because it's more than lore. It's actually, a belief. Thor was the name of a god. Thor, Odin's son. That was the actual name of Odin, who was seen as a god. And Thor was a godly son who was also, guess what? A god. A name.
Yeah.
So that itself is... that causes friction.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at that point, it's like, do you even remember the material this is pulling from? Yeah.
Well, with that, I try to give Marvel a little bit of a break because they have explicitly said over the years, like, this is our own spin, obviously, on this character.
And creative freedom is another argumentative point which could have been made for a few things tonight, I'm sure. But it doesn't undermine...
what they're pulling from.
Exactly. It doesn't undermine what a lot of our topics prior have been pulling from as well.
Oh, yeah.
In this particular case, if you Example, Joker. They use creative freedom to tell a Joker story, and preemptively they even told us, look guys, this is a project of ours. This is not a canonical based Joker. This is our movie, and this is what we want to tell you. And it was pretty well received for the most part. It was it was an exceptional movie. And there you go. That's an example.
Yeah. That's an example, one that I do want to talk about. I wanted to compare Joker to Logan, because this has been a debate going online.
Sure.
But just to wrap up with the comics really quick, the issue with the comic comes when you no longer acknowledge or recognize or care about your own established lore. Because if you do want to change the lore that's created within this own universe,
sure,
then you have to handle it adeptly, and you can't just pretend that the things that came prior never happened.
Right. So. You know what that reminds me of? Vampires. Fucking vampires, man. Bear with me, guys. So, how many different stories about vampires do you know? Really, how many different vampire stories are there out there? You know?
Gotta be dozens.
Exactly. And these are all told in such different ways, where vampires are represented differently, either through the idea of the description of them and how they work and how they don't work and the attributes that they have and the characteristics that they carry. For instance, one thing that I've been listening to lately has painted vampires to be almost purely telepathic in a manner, to where they never talk, they never physically open their mouth. Because if they did, you'd only see rows and rows of teeth, which is such a crazy interpretation. But it's not that crazy whenever you think about all the other strange vampires that we get.
Right.
In these other genres, though, it's just widely accepted because this is another telling of that. In this particular case, though, this is a singular character, not a race of characters. These aren't... All vampire movies are not Dracula movies.
Yeah. Or Nosferatu.
Or Nosferatu. Thank you. All Thor movies, however, are Thor.
Yeah.
Right? All... You get what I'm saying. I'm not going to continue driving the same stake into the hand.
Any comic character.
Exactly. Yeah. So, when Thor is a different Thor in each fucking movie, what's happened? Mm-hmm. That's where the sin comes in. That's the differentiation there. And that's, I feel like what you're about to go on here too.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, what was the example you were just pulling up actually? I started thinking about vampires.
Oh. Yeah, so, I guess just wrap up with the whole Thor thing, and why I don't think it landed with me quite as well is because you changed the lore simply so you can tell this specific story.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And for me, that's kind of a crime.
Kind of roping back into one of the examples we talked about prior in the first section of this episode tonight. Yeah.
Except it was done within the comics, and I don't even blame Jason Aaron for that. I think that the editors wanted that. So he just kind of had to accommodate.
And that's a very particular, a very specific case. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But like for the most part, I think that they're mostly done. It's handled pretty adeptly.
Okay.
Like when Laura took the mantle of Wolverine, no one batted an eye. Why? Because it made sense. If there's no Wolverine, if there's no Logan, then someone needs to fill that mantle. It makes most sense that it's her.
Right.
And, if Batman is dead, which he died for a while, it makes most sense for Dick Grayson to fill that mantle. Hell, they had conversations about that prior to his death.
Yep.
It makes most sense. Same thing with Bucky, or even same thing with Falcon when he became Captain America. But with Thor, though, it's like I have no problems with him handing off the hammer to someone who's worthy, but that doesn't make that person Thor.
No.
Betty Ray Bill was never Thor. Mm-hmm. Captain America was never Thor. People who lifted the hammer don't magically turn into fucking Thor.
Right.
So to change your lore just so now that's what happens, and in this seemingly one case only.
Right.
I don't understand.
It might be heard in a very dramatic sense, but you are damning your character in that regard, and that might be interpreted to be a very dramatic response, but you are.
Oh yeah. And when Thor changes his name to Odin's son because he's no longer worthy to be Thor.
That's not a name. I mean, Kevin, wait, everything can be a name. No, the fuck it can't. That translates literally to Odin's son. Okay, come on. Yeah, I know names translate to some crazy shit, but come on.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, just to close up with the comic section, evolution in your characters is fine. It's even welcome and is necessary. Harley Quinn finally leaving the Joker makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
We talked about a lot on that whenever we talk about our Harley Quinn TV show here, our Shorty edition.
yeah, we do. Every Friday, as a matter of fact.
I know, right? I saw the opportunity, guys. I couldn't shoot it down. Seriously, it's a hilarious session. We have a fucking great time with
Hell
it.
yeah.
Great show.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Back to points.
Back to points here. So I only had like one more, I guess, kind of midget thing I want to talk about. And
I see that you kind of like interpreted tonight's subject as a wider range, and I really kind of focused heavy on the overall writing, if you will, and the prospects of what you should and shouldn't do in, I guess, on the paper of it all. Yeah.
So that I just expounded also the comics.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to talk about here was, speaking of character integrity, was this whole kind of funny debate going on online right now.
Sure.
Between the movie Joker and the movie Logan.
Okay. I mean, I don't know of any debate right now. I'm curious what's been happening here. What's happening on the digital world?
So it came about when Joker got nominated for Oscars.
Cool.
And people were like, people were basically saying, well, if any comic book movie in recent memory deserves an Oscar, it's definitely the movie Logan.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of sparked this little debate between, of course, people who love the movie Logan and people who really love the movie Joker. People who love both.
Why does one movie being nominated for Oscars damn the other?
They're saying that because a lot of the community feels like both stretched the source material to the point where are they superhero movies? And they were saying, well, if any movie in that category deserves an Oscar, it would be this one over that one.
Okay. You're right. That is somewhat loosely attached to tonight's subject, but guys.
Yeah. And the reason that I threw that in there, because like I've been thinking about that, like, well, so personal feelings aside about either movie, if you look at what each movie did, you can say that Logan really isn't derived from the story Old Man Logan, but Logan himself and also lore, they're very much attached to who they are in the canonical nature.
Hell yeah.
Whereas you can't quite say the same thing about Arthur Fleck. So it's been an interesting thought of mine from that viewpoint. Yeah. But so that was just kind of an interesting debate going on, because I mean, it's true, Joker is an amazing movie. Does he adhere to the nature of any character, any version of the Joker? Not necessarily.
I was about to say, momentarily in certain scenes, sure. Overall, however, from a basic synopsis of the movie, I mean, Arthur Fleck is an interpretation of the Joker rather than the Joker from the pages.
Yeah. I think that Arthur Fleck is his own character.
Well, no, that's exactly what I'm saying, dude. An interpretation of them. Yeah, they use the namesake of the Joker and the idea that this being Gotham City, that it's all related there. Mm-hmm. However, it's their own telling of it. It's their own separate thing.
Yeah. And that is, I think that is true.
Yeah.
However, the movie didn't need the Joker name. It's where I do agree with certain masses.
Yeah, I was about to say, and that's another discussion itself, where I feel like the movie would have been powerful either way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But here we are.
Yeah, here we are. And once again, as far as the people who were upset with the movie Logan, I always thought it was interesting because he did such a great job over the years.
He really did.
Displaying Wolverine.
Yeah. And he was so damn good, and he cared about that character integrity from the pages and transcribing it and becoming it for the screen. He was. I mean, the only thing that he damned couldn't do was make himself shorter, I mean, to this day, it's debatable how many actors have mastered being that character as well as Hugh Jackman being Wolverine, And there's a number of actors who deserve that title as well, but there aren't a vast listing of them. You know,
Yeah.
Hugh is going to be one of the prime examples.
Yeah, that's one thing that I definitely, I wouldn't see as a worry, but I am curious about what Marvel's going to do.
Oh yeah, no, that
Yeah.
really, like, you talked about big shoes earlier. These are going to be fucking giant feet. You know, that's who's going to take the claws.
I feel like you have to get an unknown. You have
Oh
to
yeah,
get somebody who's
no,
unknown.
definitely
Yeah.
an unknown. Yeah.
I mean, at this point, because you get somebody who's already established, and the internet will just try to rip that
Yeah.
person apart.
All right, Disney, come on, get your factories open.
Yeah,
Open up them conveyor belts.
Right. They're gonna craft like the perfect Wolverine.
Exactly. Yep.
This is what they fucking do.
You know what I think they do? Remember the story of Borderlands where they took this random guy named Timothy Lawrence and synthetically created Jack from him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what they gotta do. They gotta get another guy who just like agrees to sign his life over to become a picturesque Wolverine.
Yeah.
He's gotta be a great actor though. So
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah.
that's the first filter that the world's gotta go through to find Hugh Jackman.
Yes.
Or Hugh Jackman replacement. There you go.
Also, just another slightly off-topic thought
Okay,
about
what's up?
Wolverine, and that is like whenever you do bring him in the MCU, there better be Sentinels in the movie because he needs something to stab that we can see.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't know how well or how down Disney is to have him stabbing people.
Damn it.
I mean,
Damn it.
he's got to do the stabbing.
Dadgummit, man. Fuck. Why? Q. Why? I didn't have to think about this right now.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have.
Q.
I didn't mean it.
Come on, man. I know we all get sick and die, but now you gotta tell me they're gonna like do some weird ass changes to Wolverine so that when he stabs people, it's non-fatal. Like, okay. You're gonna try to sell me that after I saw Logan when he cut a dude and like a
Oh,
top half of a torso came off or something? Come on.
jeez. So visceral.
Come on. All right, guys.
Yeah. But what do you have in conclusion for this one?
In conclusion, I do want to give a quick summary, guys. Tonight's subject obviously was something very close to heart for both Q and I. It's an issue that we have that we have noticed in our short little renditions and our fun little episodes that we do here. Again, guys, character integrity. It's integral to whatever director, whatever producer, whatever product that we get coming out onto our big screens, you know, to our comic books even, as well as you highlighted for us here. A character, again, we know that their job is to drive the plot forward and to tell us this great and awesome story and to help us to care and to want to know the story and to even become an audience or a fan member of it. Don't change your characters. Don't even accept character change for the idea of just fitting a role, of just making more money for a big ass production set that honestly doesn't need more money, or for the idea of being weakened to make another character look great, or fuck, for whatever reason that you guys might be able to think of, you know? Yeah. It's out there, guys. The examples on both sides of the fence exist, and when it comes to characters that are pre-established, that's where we sit. Let us know what you think, of course, because we exercise any type of freedom of thought. You agree? Hell yeah. You disagree? Let us know why. But that's where it's at, guys. Let's not accept lazy, uninspired, or quote unquote more profitable changes to a character for hell's sake. Let's only take a character that is awesome, that is known, that is, you know, true to their selves prior, or, as we talked about also, a character that is changed for its own growth to better serve the story, an honest story, as you highlighted earlier in a fun little example. But that's all I got, guys. That's me. What about you, man?
Yeah, I do just want to preface by saying we love comic book movies.
Of course.
I have
you and me
seen,
both. Yeah.
I have seen them grow and evolve and develop over the years since I was a little kid till today.
It is fascinating what we got now. They've become so awesome.
Yeah. And the thing about these comic book movies is that, as we discussed, obviously, yes, there are always going to be some changes that are necessary to make, because you can't fit a 400-page story, into a 2-hour movie and expect it to be a respectable film or to not feel rushed.
Or a perfect copy paste. Yeah.
Nor does anyone really want that.
No.
And the thing about the character integrity, and the thing that I always like to say, is that you can tell whatever story you want with these characters. You just have to be true to who these characters are.
Right.
And so, with that being said, I think that moving forward in the future, hopefully there will be more of immersion of, fans of the source material and fans of these characters on big screen. Mm-hmm. And hopefully there can be even more immersion between the two groups so that they almost become synonymous with one another. Not saying that everybody has to read comics, but saying that those who develop these movies take more care and understanding as to who these characters are and why they're so special to people who read them in the first place.
Exactly.
Yep. So those are our thoughts on this, guys.
Fuck yeah. Yeah. Hopefully you guys hopefully you guys really liked it, Yeah, because again, this was something that's been a long time coming. It's been fucking important, dude. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. That's all I got.
I think that's all we got for this one.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. But, guys, as always, if you didn't know, we'll be covering Birds of Prey later on this week.
Hell yeah. Got our tickets. We're ready to go. And you best believe we're going to be coming back with thoughts from our preview and answer some of those and see how the movie did.
Hell yes. We're looking forward to that, guys.
Hell yeah. And, of course, we still got some Patreons later on this month. Birds of Prey will be taking up one of our Patreon slots, but
we have Sonic.
Fuck yeah, we do. Yes. We also have a review of Kakarot, the fun video game.
Yes. And we're doing a special episode, a Guilty Pleasures episode, where we discuss maybe certain films or television shows or video games or what have you that may not be that great, but still have a special place in our heart.
It's like, wait, this isn't widely accepted? Why do the homies like it? Well, because.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So bad it's good. Sometimes that's it.
An episode with the freedom to be biased. So best believe that's coming your way now, only on our Superhero Homies Patreon page. Again, that is at patreon.com/Superhero Homies. $1 gets you most of those things, and $3 gets you all of those things.
Everything. But yeah, guys, that's all for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you guys haven't done so already, please feel free to leave us a review, a written review, preferably one with 5 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 stars.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He says.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. You guys have no idea how much that helps us.
Yeah, it really does. Thank you all for all your support who have supported us thus far. And if you guys want us to talk about anything in particular, just let us know and we'll fit it in somewhere.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. But that's all for now. And until next time, my name is Superhero Homie Q.
And as always, I am Superhero Homie Kevin.